Tonight on Journey's Prime, NPP denies secret vigilante group training at a Suchari to disrupt the 2020 general elections as they challenge the NDC to resort to the law court if they have evidence. We'll tell you what we found when our security desk visited a Suchari. And are you mindful of what and where you eat? How do you avoid consuming unwholesome foods?
The flies no mbo omunnu na me nyina omunnu na gu mbo eka enam no ho nyina omu wo blue flies ne nyina a omunam nyina no omunnu ne mbo agu enam no so unim sa.
We'll engage a chef and nutritionist as we mark World Food Day. Also in the bulletin, 20 people dead, over 200 houses collapsed, hundreds of people homeless, all within 1 month across the Upper East region.
Pathetic, and we are currently at Sirigu, where a woman lost her life as a result of the collapsed building.
On showbiz, tortured Miss Commonwealth pageant contestant 24-year-old Nanama Essien tonight will share her story with us.
Started hitting my back with this cutlass, forcibly telling me to confess that I'm the one who took the money. And I was still saying I am innocent. They ended up putting this my small hand in the oil. Oil was boiling, so I was just shaking and begging for my life at that point.
In business,
Registrar General's Department introduces more reforms to minimize face-to-face interaction.
My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Joining Prime comes to you live from our studios in Kokomlemle, Accra, on digital address GA09925539, on GoTV channel 144 and DSTV channel 421. Please stay with us. The food we consume goes through a long chain of processes from the moment it's harvested, extracted and slaughtered, sold on the market and finally cooked. Often we're actually unable to tell whether it is safe to be consumed or not. As Ghana joins the rest of the world to mark World Food Day, there are calls for action across sectors to make healthy and sustainable diets affordable and accessible to everyone. At the same time, calling on everyone to start thinking about what we eat. But you know that the Joy Clean Ghana campaign has uncovered things otherwise wouldn't have been made known. Today, we want to remind you of some of the serious nuances the team discovered.
Our search for sanitation offenders at Jamestown led us to a beans and plantain seller. She fries her plantain at the entrance of her toilet and sells it in front of her bathroom, which has green algae all over.
Collect all these things and go and put it in your car. Yes, collect everything and go and put it in your car.
At Okankwe South, the team visited an eatery where they found in the storage room food flasks filled with maggots and rotten fish and soup residue in a filthy container.
All this, you blend this from home of where we don't know where you have blended from. It's already the thing is a suspect because we don't know the condition under which it was ground or blended. Then you bring it and you hide it under this poor environmental condition, serious one, most flies and dirty clothing, everything. You put this thing under it to use it to prepare food for people to consume. So we are confiscating it and we will destroy it in her face here. Nothing is going back to the kitchen to be used for food preparation.
The least can be said for the markets we visited, where food items such as dried fish, pork and cowhide, popularly known as wele, displayed in the open, were at the mercy of the weather and houseflies.
Now, when say flies, no, but blue flies, Steve na America no. Na nam na we dey.
Never you say Steve mu.
Steve no, and what Steve no be better or just say na why you man. You can't expose the meat like this. Unim say that's maybe be a corner.
Indeed, how safe are we?
We'll get to speak to a nutritionist and a chef shortly. Now, if you're one of those who do not take in fruits, then you should pay attention to this. The WHO estimates that low fruits and vegetable intake contributes to approximately 2.7 million deaths a year from chronic diseases and causes about 31% of ischemic heart diseases and 11% of strokes worldwide. You heard right. But it appears there is a general upsurge in demand for fresh fruits and vegetables in Ghana. You doubt it? Here's the fruit seller.
Doctor advice, a man for to send a fruit as here. I say first, no, this will be no quando, so obedi mango, and now obedi bibiansa, but they say, no, I say, a didier, yeah, teso.
It appears more people are heeding to the advice from doctors and are buying more fruit lately. Years ago, people only bought fruit when they had appetite for it. But now, the story is different. Now business is booming.
Now let's talk to Tim Banks, owner and chef of Eleanor's Restaurant, and Dr. Wise Chukudi Lecha, author of your Diet and Health book series. Good evening to you, gentlemen. Thanks for your time.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So for those who hear the term healthy eating and don't know what it means, please help us appreciate that. And I'll start with Dr. Lecha.
Okay. Good evening to our viewers, and good evening to you. I'm very happy to be on the show this evening. The best way to address me is Mr. Wise Chukudi Lecha. I'm a dietitian. I work at the Trust Hospital, and I'm also the author of your Diet and Health book series. Now, when we talk about healthy nutrition, it means that something like sickness comes to mind. For you to think about eating so that you'll be well, it also means that you can eat and then you will not be well. Some of the visuals that you showed earlier reveal very, very bad ways of handling food that introduce a lot of contaminants and then into the food that can cause a lot of sickness. So simply put, if you want to be healthy, through the way you eat. You simply want to be well, like you don't want to fall sick when, or the result of your sickness, you don't want it to be because of the food you eat. So we look at both internal and external factors that contribute to how well we are before or so far as our food is concerned. First of all, right from the farm, how is that food produced? How is it grown? What kind of chemicals are being added? And then when the food reaches the market, how is it handled? Now, when the food gets into your kitchen where you do the preparation and then you share the food, how is it done? So if you look at the whole food value chain, the way we handle every step determines whether that food is going to be healthy or not. And it only calls for good agricultural practices, good farming practices, and then good handling in the market. And then when the food gets into the kitchen, before it gets onto your table, how is that food also prepared?
I'd like to bring in Tim here, Dr. Lecha, Harvey Hold, and bring in Tim here because you're a huge food supplier to a lot of consumers. How do we ensure that we provide wholesome meals to our customers?
Well, I think the doctor makes some really good points there. The only thing that I would add is that you need to try and encourage people to eat things which are in a way unrefined as possible. I'm talking about trying to eat fewer sort of starchy, refined carbs like white bread, even the polished white rice that we all like very much, less sort of pizza. Those things are luxuries, really. I think what you want to sort of base your diet on is sort of unrefined things like, you know, the traditional Ghanaian stuff is great. Kenke, banku, things which haven't had all of the fiber stripped out of them. And then when you're looking at meats, things that don't have too much salt added to them, things that aren't really processed.
But
you know, try and avoid.
Tim, we're getting worried about our markets. Can our foods ever be healthy, looking at the conditions our markets are in now?
Well, that's an age-old problem. You know, there's always been filth in markets to an extent, but the market is really the end of the journey for the food. The food has undergone a lot of processes before it gets to the market. So it's really the amount of insecticides, chemical fertilizers that are used, which has, I would guess, more of an effect on the content of the food. But if you're really concerned about, you know, the physical dirt and the bacteria on your vegetables when you buy them, there are things you can do. For example, I don't know if you can see this product I'm holding up here.
I can see very clearly.
Yeah, these are sort of chlorine tablets, sanitizing tablets. People use them. You can use them to clean your poly tank, but if you follow the instructions on there, you can also use them to wash salad and sanitize vegetables, even water that you cook with, and most sort of borehole what do I want to call it? Borehole diggers, people who sell poly tanks will sell these things. So if you're concerned about the dirt in the market, it's not a bad idea to get to. We use these to wash our salad. It's not a bad idea to get something like that will sanitize the stuff, particularly stuff that you're not going to cook, like lettuce leaves. You know?
Now, Dr. Letcher, we've seen a lot of filth, adulteration in our market. Tell us what all of these do to our system.
Yeah, I mean, that's just ways to introduce contaminants into our food. So it simply means that most of what we buy from the markets are not fit to be used as food. So when you eat them, you are having biological contaminants, bacteria, you have fungi, a lot of all these things that will cause disease at the end of the day, E. coli and all that. So you see that people eat and they have diarrhea. There are a lot of cancers and all that happening these days that we don't really know where people are getting them from. People are suffering from a lot of chemical intoxication immediately after they eat their food. So we just have to be very careful. First of all, we need to appeal to the conscience of our food handlers in the markets. These food are for human beings. If you think that you adulterate, and because you are going to sell it out, you can easily adulterate that piece of food and give it out to somebody to consume.
So
your own family member might end up eating the same food.
What should we be looking out for when buying food? Dr. Letcher, what should we be looking out for when buying food? Okay, let me pass that on to Tim. Tim, what should we be looking out for when buying food?
Sure. Well, you know, certainly you want to look at you want to look at the environment that the person is selling the food in. I think that's fairly obvious. When it comes to fruit and veg, you're looking for stuff which is firm, which has got a good sort of color to it. which isn't covered in filth. When you're looking at things like meat and fish, there are certain things that you can, that you can tell. With fish should always be firm. It shouldn't really. Ideally, the fresher a fish is, the less it smells like fish, if that makes any sense. It should smell of the sea. It should be almost odorless. If you take a look at the gills of a fresh fish, it should be bright red. The eyes of the fish should be really sort of firm and clear and standing out. If any of those things aren't, aren't the case, you can tell that the fish has been around for a little while. As for meat, the best thing is to buy meat from the market. I would say in the mornings, as early as possible. Get to know your places where you buy them. Always buy from the same people. Get to know when his meat comes in, when it's butchered. Here in Ghana, people don't always have such great refrigeration. The best form of refrigeration a lot of the time is to keep the animal alive. So in a way, you want the meat as soon after it's been slaughtered, in a way, as possible. You want meat that is, if it's red meat, to be bright red, and again, not to have a strong odor. To the touch, it shouldn't be slimy.
So the best time to get it is early morning. That you're sure you'll get fresh meat. Let me get to Dr. Lecha, who is back on Skype. Doc, earlier the question I posed was, what should we be looking out for when buying food?
Of course, you should look at them. What are some of the hygienic practices of the food handlers? The kind of things you are going to buy, are they in secure places where they are just not at the mercy of the weather or flies that move from freezers and settle on those food items? When food is being, or ingredients are displayed beside gutters that are choked and dirty, you should not patronize them. And your food should be fresh enough, depending on what you are looking out for. If it's spoiled, you should not even attempt trying to maximize profit.
Now, there's a new phenomenon, Dr. Lecha. People do only veggies, fruits, and proteins. Is this safe?
It's not good to eat only one group of food. Your plate, if it can be described as healthy, should be able to deliver all the food nutrients to you. So the best way to get all the nutrients from whatever you are eating is to make sure that the plate looks complete, or whatever food is there is made from all the food groups. So there should be a source of carbohydrates or starch. There should be a source of protein, a little fat. At least those are the three major components that you should ensure are there, and then you are going to be sure that you get your vitamins and minerals.
I'm grateful for your time. Dr. Wise Chukwudi Lecha is author of Your Diet and Health, and Tim Banks is also owner and chef of Eleanor's Restaurant. I'm grateful for your time on Joy News Prime. Welcome back to the news. Now to the rest of our stories. And the New Patriotic Party has dismissed the allegation the party is training militants to cause mayhem during the 2020 elections. They have challenged the NDC to resort to the law court if they have evidence to back their claims. We'll read the NPP statement shortly, but first, the second Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, is demanding an external probe into the alleged military training of some people he refers to as NPP thugs at a Suchari to cause tension and confusion during the 2020 polls. Now, in spite of government's denial of the accusations, Mr. Bagbin insists government is covertly arming its vigilante groups. The Nadoli Kalio legislature argues that training thugs could destabilize the country's security. He's been speaking to my colleague Parker Wilson.
I heard it. I've also done some investigation personally into it, and it's true. It's very, very true. You see,
it's true that they are training types.
Yes.
Are these not national
everybody
national security operatives? Are they
no,
not?
No. They are not national security operatives. They are MPP operatives. There is no secret in the world. I mean, people must know that. They must know that even some of the people doing the training are not happy. Okay, that they are doing those training. They don't think that it's proper for them to come and visit that kind of harm and mayhem on their brothers and sisters who might not agree with them on the political, or which of the political sides to belong to, you know. And even they must know that the people training them are themselves worried. Okay, if you are training civilians, you are training civilians on how to use AK-47. You are even endangering the armed forces. The professional soldiers moving around will now have unprofessional civilians who know how to use AK-47, sometimes countering them. And what we're doing, we must stop. It is true, my brother, it is true. If they say it is not true, let's bring international listen to investigate. And you see it.
You want an international body to investigate?
Yes. It is true that some civilians are being trained at Asuchore on how to face mayhem, how to use.
But you don't have any evidence to support the fact that they are going to train them, they are training them to cause mayhem during 2020 elections.
Why will we be training DCs and party operatives at Asuchore? For them to join the military? For them to do what?
The New Patriotic Party has responded to this allegation, and a statement signed by the party's Director of Communication reads, well, we'll get you the... It should not surprise anyone that candidate John Mahama is throwing verbal flames at election issues again. In his recent meeting with the leadership of the GJA, the NPP emphatically denies any knowledge or participation in any wild claim of military training to disrupt the upcoming elections in 2020. Those are excerpts of the statement by the NPP. And it continues, indeed, the former president comes to the debate about electoral violence far too late to be taken serious after gleefully declaring his higher credentials in delivering election violence and threatening to match the NPP boot for boot. Candidate Mahama went to sleep with a false presentation to the diplomatic community about the noble country he seeks to lead. He made absolutely no input into the public, executive, legislative, and political leadership processes that led to the establishment of the Short Commission, the National Peace Council moderated bi-party dialogue, and the passage of an Act of Parliament against politically related violence. And for the attention of candidate Mahama, the nation has moved beyond scare tactics about election violence. If he has any substance, he should resort to the rule of law and use the institutions available. We also admonish Mahama and his followers not to resort to cooking up and spreading false materials on social media, as they have done in recent times in their attempt to mislead the good people of Ghana, as has been proven. That will soon be found out as false. If it is just qualms he has about losing the impending elections, then he best keeps them to himself so the nation can get on with the serious business of defeating poverty. The NPP is eagerly waiting for John Mahama's policy on anything. Meanwhile, the NPP is fully harnessed into the unfolding program of His Excellency President Nana Akufo-Addo. And it continues to read, the NPP believes the president's leadership offers the best chance of breaking out of the poverty trap and deepening democratic governance. Mr. Mahama misled the people when president and now misleading them with lies in opposition, and is signed by Yawabea Samoa, who is Director of Communications at the NPP. Speaking on Top Story with Evans Mensah earlier today, Deputy Defense Minister Major Retired Derek Odro says the NDC is making those wild allegations to create fear and panic among the population.
I have not heard and I have not seen any move by the MPP party to train anybody in any of the military institutions. We have Bondase training camp. And so, where they mention, yes, that is a military training camp. We have Army Recruit Training Center. Nobody is there. We have only recruits who have been enlisted, legally enlisted. Since 2017, they have passed through this training ever since we came to power. And the recruitment procedures were followed. They are not militias. They are proper recruits who would sooner or later become professional soldiers. We have Air Force training, recruit training school. We have Navy training school. We have military academy and training school. We are not training any militias there.
With specific reference to Asuchari, I'm just wondering, have you independently verified since these allegations surfaced?
Independently? I have the Deputy Defense Minister. You are talking about independently. The training institution is in my ministry. And why should I independently? I am saying that we don't have setting there. Nothing is going on. Militia training in addition. Why? Why should the government, the ruling government, MPP, government, train militia? The baseless accusation, the baseless statement you are making, throwing dust into the people's eyes. What they want to achieve is to cause fear and panic.
A contestant in this year's Miss Commonwealth Ghana beauty pageant wants justice served after she was allegedly tortured for what organizers claim was theft of 500 Ghana cedis. 24-year-old Nanama Asian, who emerged as Miss Role Model per her position as third runner-up, said she was dragged to a shrine at Kukrentumi in the eastern region where she was taken through trial by ordeal. Narrating her ordeal, she said the shrine priest put her finger into boiling water and hit her several times with the side of a machete. The alleged trial by ordeal, according to Nanama, was to help find the person who stole 500 Ghana cedis while they were in the pageant house about a month ago.
We got to Koforidia, we got to the shrine, and then the juju man said they are giving us an egg and they will give you a powder and you have to say things after them. If you throw the egg and the egg turn out cooked, meaning you know something about the issue. If you throw it and the egg breaks, meaning you are innocent. They gave us the egg and you got to my 10 and then the egg turned out cooked. We were 4 in numbers that our egg turned out cooked. Then the juju men asked us to undress. So we're half naked. So then they started hitting our backs with cutlass. They were asking us to speak the truth. And these 2 gentlemen said they stole cloth during our time in the house. They stole cloth, so they spared them. The juju men spared them. I was left with myself and then the queen, the winner. They started hitting me. They turned their attention on me and then started hitting me. Severally, these 2 gentlemen were with the cutlass. One was at my left and one was at my right. They started hitting my back with this cutlass, forcibly telling me to confess that I'm the one who took the money. And I was still saying I am innocent. Then they came with a hot boiling oil on a coal pot and they were asking me to forcibly putting my hand in the oil, that if I don't speak the truth, they are going to put all my hand in the oil. They ended up putting my small hand in the oil. And right then the oil was boiling, so I was just shaking and begging for my life at that point because I realized they could kill me. So I was just begging them, and then they asked me, who did I plan all those things with? I was like, because they are beating me, that's why I said that. And then the beating became double. The juju man's wife started slapping me. These 2 gentlemen started hitting me everywhere, punching me, and then they were asking me to say I'm the one. And then I was begging for my life that I'm the one, please spare me. Right then, they asked me to crawl with my knee on the compound. The compound is that concrete tiles. So I have to crawl. That is how come I had this I'm hurt on my knees and all those stuffs. So after everything, they gave us an egg to swear. If you take the issue outside, you are going to die. I am not seeking for anything, but I just want the law to work.
Talking of the law, the Supreme Court has asked Special Prosecutor Martin Amidu to collaborate with Attorney General Gloria Kufu to retrieve 47 million euros wrongfully paid consecution firm Waterville Holding Limited. Martin Amidu dragged the Attorney General to the Supreme Court on grounds that the department failed to carry out an order to retrieve the money. Still on the judgment that issue, the court also pronounced on an application by businessman Alfred Woyome asking that he's allowed to pay his debt to the state in installments. Here's a wrap of the two decisions from the Supreme Court.
Martin Amidu in his private capacity sued Waterville and Alfred Woyome in 2012, alleging they had been wrongfully paid various sums. The Apex Court ruled in his favor, directing the sums be recovered. An amount of 47 million euros was to be recovered from the company, while 51.2 million cedis was to be paid by the businessman. Mr. Amidu filed a fresh application in September this year, saying the government of Ghana is yet to retrieve the money from Waterville. The Supreme Court, however, wants Mr. Amidu to provide the needed information to the AG to ensure recovery of the money. Businessman Alfred Woyome, who has been the subject of months of internal and external legal tussles with the state, also filed an application asking that he's allowed to pay back in installments. He pleaded with the court that sale of his assets will leave him bankrupt. But the Supreme Court dismissed the application, explaining that it was unmeritorious and that the businessman has over the years not shown any true commitment to refund the money.
Our earlier story where Commonwealth pageant contestant was molested. Francis Gomedo is the Deputy Public Relations Officer of the Eastern Regional Police Command. He's been speaking to Joy News.
It was alleged that the victim now, who is our complainant, was subjected to some sort of beating. It was also alleged that they used even the flat side of a cutlass to beat her, let her kneel down and all that. So after the incident, instead of the lady reporting the case to the police in the Eastern region, she failed to do that. So on the 11th, that was last week Friday, that she reported the case officially to the regional CID. And we commenced investigation. As we speak, we have arrested 3 out of the 5 people who were actually mentioned as suspects in the case. The owner of the shrine, who subjected them to the ordeal, Togbe Ashito, the CEO of the beauty pageant where she belongs to, and one other, Isaac Abraham, they've been arrested, and they are assisting the police in their investigation. We have to send a docket to the AG's office for advice before we proceed. So because of that, they were granted police inquiry bail to be reporting, and the docket will be sent to the regional AG's office for advice, and we'll take it from there.
Meanwhile, Chief Executive Officer of the Miss Commonwealth Beauty Pageant has declined to speak to Joy News. At least 20 people have died in floods across the Upper East region in the last month, according to the National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO. Over 200 houses have also collapsed, leaving hundreds of people homeless and seeking refuge with their relatives. The National Disaster Management Organization in that region says it is still collating figures of the impact of the disaster. We'll hear more from NADMO, but first listen to Aduku Nyaba, a resident of Mirigu in the Kasana Nankana West District, whose mother died after their house collapsed on her after a heavy downpour.
Mamala, Tisara Wanidala, Amembula Bo so Mamala Yuni Amele.
My mother was sleeping in my room with my children when the rain was falling. At some point during the night, she realized the walls were shaking, so she woke the children up and asked that they went out. So
ligi timala so tira on luela
The children went out, but she decided to stay in the room for a while. Then the walls fell. I was called and told about the news, so I rushed here. With the help of some neighbors, we removed the broken wall, but it was too late. My mother had passed.
David Mba is Deputy Upper East Regional Director of NADMO.
Gathering information from our EOC, that is the Emergency Response Center, we have decided as the operation team to get to the field to see it all for ourselves. And in fact, it's so pathetic, I would say, because we have moved from one community to another, and we are currently at Sirigu, where a woman lost her life as a result of the collapsed building. Looking at the situation, we want to call on all bodies concerned, because the relief that we have may not be enough to reach or cover all these areas, especially victims that are affected. Though we would move ahead as a first step to see how we can support, but we still need the support of government and the support of other NGOs, especially World Vision, Red Cross, and Action Aid, if they can come into support, and also benevolent organizations that think they can support us to give relief to victims of this disaster. I'll call it the October disaster.
So much, and that'll be it for Joining Interactive, and that will also be it for the bulletin. My name is Aisha Brian. Log on to myjohnline.com for more news and updates of the developing stories. Enjoy the rest of our programs. PM Express comes up next. Stay with us.